What's your greatest, most satisfying, I called it, moment? Kept finding small cut-up straws in my grandma's bathroom. So many straws. I let my grandmother know that someone is using her bathroom to use drugs. She freaks out saying I'm accusing her of using drugs and that it's impossible. A year later my uncle divorces his wife due to her cocaine addiction. Grandma says, well, Kay always stopped by in the afternoon to use the restroom and then she would clean my whole house and I just didn't think anything of it. My favorite story at Thanksgiving. Not sure if I can call it satisfying, but it's still a good one. In 2003 I wrote a thesis on mortgage-backed securities. The whole thing did not make sense to me and told my professor as much, but added, what do I know? I'm just a student and Wall Street guys must know what they're doing. And then 2008 happened. When I met my mom's husband's adult kids. After a few minutes of hanging out with them I followed my mom into the kitchen. Me. 3 of his 4 kids are gay? Quote, Mom. No. Only 1 is. Me. No. 3 are. 10 years later. 1 of his children is in a same-sex marriage and 2 of his kids are living with longtime same-sex partners. Probably too late, but I want to share this anyway. The last few months of my wife's pregnancy with my daughter, the little baby would regular as clockwork. Around 10:30 p.m. Put her feet against my wife's ribs and try to straighten her legs so she could headbutt her way out of my wife. Bam! Headbutt to the inside of your whatever. My wife would fucking jump up cursing like a sailor every time. It was painful, but also hilarious, reliable, and I guess we knew she'd be an active little kid well before she was born. Cut to the evening of her birth. The doctor is telling us around 9 p.m. that things are going well. But he's going to go get dinner because he hasn't eaten and there's no way this kid is corning out before midnight. I look at my wife, look at the doc, and say, don't go fat. The kid is going to deliver herself around 10:30 p.m. I promise you, you're just going to have to catch her. He laughed, told us he's been doing this a long time. And he wasn't worried. 10:25 he's rushing in and barely gets his gloves and scrubs on before my daughter shoots herself out of mommy like a greased bullet. Direct quote from the doctor looking at me as he holds my little darling. Well, I guess even I can learn things. Still, I don't blame him at all. Who would believe parents about something like that? But that kid had done so many test runs on such a regular schedule. I knew there was no stopping her. And fair game. Getting headbutted daily for a month or whatever as a trade-off to having a very short and easy labor. There are worse deals. I went to the theater to watch a movie with some Buttoldies one time. While waiting in line to get popcorn I found 22 cents on the ground and one Buttoldie said, when are you ever gonna need 22 cents? I jokingly told him that one day he's gonna wish he had 22 cents and hell regrets saying that. Sure enough, when we're paying for popcorn, that same buddy was exactly 22 cents short. I gave it to him in exchange for a popcorn tax. The first Avengers movie. My husband was wondering why the staff could stop the almighty Tesseract. I casually said, maybe they're both Infinity Stones. He said, nah, the Tesseract is its own thing. Because he was more into the comics at the time. I shrugged it off. Since then, every MacGuffin in the movies, down to Thor's Dark World, I jokingly said, Infinity Stone to troll him. You can imagine how pissed he's been since Guardians. Found out my now ex-husband was sleeping with a coworker. So naturally we divorce, but still have to keep in contact because we have a daughter. Well, her fiancé finds out and leaves her as well. Now she is a decade older than me and had mentioned that she and her ex-fiancé had been trying for a baby for a long time, but never conceived. He continued to see her and eventually she moved on with him. He didn't want any more kids. I told him to be careful because I suspected she was only with him to have a baby. Fast forward a year and she's pregnant. He comes to terms with it after being slightly upset. Fast forward a year after their baby was born. And she breaks up with Hearn. Shocker. I don't care if they are up 28-3, they are the Falcons, they'll blow it somehow. Coworker made a very unethical, behind closed doors deal with another company. And he was an agency resource, not even a full employee of my company. After months, I spoke up about something being fishy, and concerns of pre-committing purchasing, etc. My apathetic boss ignores me, all while coworker secures a job at the other company to work on the project that he set up with my company. Fast forward a year later. Now they are citing that project as a pre-commit for service. Wisdom never tasted so sour. Friend of mine got into a relationship with this girl. He tells me that she cries every time he tries to end their chat. I immediately think to myself, this isn't gonna be good. She becomes incredibly controlling, to the point of our crew only hearing from him once every few weeks. I mentioned how utterly fucked it was to him, but he refused to believe that there was something wrong, claimed he could persuade her otherwise. 2 years later, no sign of any of his progress. Was really sad to watch him slowly fade out of our lives in favor of her. Edit. Just a quick rephrase for clarity. I was on a second date and we were watching Criminal Minds at her apartment. I called that the killer would be an archaeologist who hadn't even been introduced yet. She was so blown away during the reveal at the end of the episode that I took a victory lap. As I rounded third, I slipped where the carpet meets the hardwood and fell flat on my face. We've been married for over 2 years now. My wife was watching some TV show. I happened to walk in during some scene in which it was raining out, and a guy and a gal were looking at each other through their car windows as their kid went from one car to the other. I said, "Here comes the scene where they make up," without knowing any of the background of the show. My wife started telling me that it won't happen. They had had a failed relationship years earlier, hence the kid, and the woman was with a great guy. Right after she said that, the woman got out and ran to the guy's car, basically professing her love for ITN. Probably not the only one, but I was watching Seven for the first time and my Rom was eagerly watching me as I reacted to the movie. She lost her shit when I said, "Is that Kevin Spacey?" During the phone call scene. She couldn't believe I recognized his voice and figured out who it was before the big reveal. I'm obviously not the only one to have guessed, but it was satisfying watching her reaction. Following a car with its left turn signal on for 2 miles. The driver kept slowing at side streets as if to make a left turn, but didn't actually turn. I looked over at my daughter and said, "Watch. They'll make a right turn." Fucking called it. Yes. They were still signaling left when they made the right turn. Ed. It's not it's. When my brother and sister-in-law planned a trip home for Easter weekend, I told my wife and parents that they were coming to announce their pregnancy. Everyone told me I was crazy and they just used the family chat for that. Cue Easter lunch on Saturday and my Sil refuses a glass of wine and everyone guesses she's pregnant. Called it.